Well, we're here with Vlad Yashin. We've been chatting. Data scientist from Hamburg, Germany. It's great to talk to you again. The last time we talked might have been in like January. Yeah, why don't you briefly introduce yourself again?
Yeah, sure. So I'm glad to be here on your podcast, Rich. And I'm Vlad, 24. Was born in Belarus, in Gomel, a pretty small town. Moved to Germany, to Hamburg, actually to Hanover and then to Hamburg for my bachelor's degree, and living here since 2016, like almost 6 years. I'm a data scientist, was working in different fields. Really big fan of AI systems and machine learning systems. Also, think a lot about the future. Try to be human as much as I can and empathize people. It's difficult, but I'm trying to learn it on my way. And yeah, I'll do some self-marketing. I have also my the Futurisity podcast, so maybe we'll put a link. It would be awesome.
Yeah, we'll put a link for sure.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a brief introduction of who I am.
Yeah, so we were talking about a number of things before this. My summer with the gunman. I will say this, like, so I talked about it with you, and how like this summer has been quite transformative. You know, when you have like this near-death experience at the beginning of the summer, now it's like the end of the summer, and I'm kind of now zooming out and seeing like, okay, what did this summer mean, or like the things that happened, and the processing of the event, and like life is fundamentally different now. It's just like I'm a different person. It's like it's done. And so it's like, how then navigating life as this new person per se. There's so many interesting things. But I will say this, like, this is kind of like the biggest theme to come from it is, I described to you, I had a near-death experience in 2018, and then every day I'm just getting better, because that's if you want to live a great life, that's how you have to do it. And I've developed my own personal philosophy and approach to life that's effective and efficient for me, where something like this happens, it's traumatic, but you're mentally prepared and you move forward, and it's in the past. I'm okay now. So let's turn this into more of an opportunity and a point to get better in a way. And I think, but right before this is happening, I even have recordings where I'm talking about how like bored I am with life. Like life has gotten kind of easy. And like on this individual level, I'm like doing really, really well. But there's also this like internal suffering in a way. And something like this makes me realize there's this like internal suffering, because you also see everything around you and everybody's suffering. And it's like, what's the point of just like living life really, really well for yourself? And so it's more about like giving back and how to then work with other people to serve each other, serve our communities, and just make the world a better place. So I had been thinking about that, and then it just takes something like a near-death experience to just like catapult it in that direction. So I've been, fortunately for me too, like I've had channels, like I have things that I'm doing. It's not like I don't dwell on the event or life in that sense. It's like, okay, now I'm going to channel this energy into this and that and that. And that's been pretty interesting to kind of cap our conversation on that.
Yeah, I can highly relate to it, because probably I've told you on the podcast in our last episode or in our first episode. I don't remember right now. I can't recall it. But anyway, to serve the communities, to serve the humanity in general, it's one of the biggest pleasures ever, I think. And yeah, that's actually for me somehow the biggest pleasure, to serve the humanity and the communities in general as a meaning of life. And about suffering, I've seen it quite a lot, and that's actually, you've summarized it really well up, that there is suffering everywhere internally. Media gives you more and more suffering, like, or at least the feeling of suffering, that look, we are going to die, Earth is destroying, climate crisis here, we have wars, we have corona, we have many different bad things, but there are also a lot of really good things in this world that no one mentions. And I think if a person puts enough effort into search of this internal meaning of why are you here on this planet, and as my philosophy, because you've mentioned your philosophy, and for me it's the biggest motivator, and why I wake up, and I'm really into asking this question, why you wake up every day in the morning. So what drives you? Because of course you can have like great ideas and dreams and stuff like that, but all these small days, like your routine, is forming you as an individual, as a member of a society, as a member of a community, and all those tiny things make you a great human being. So, and for me, fortunately, I've realized it kind of early, and I don't know, somehow I've just stuck to it, that we don't have that much time on this planet, if you calculate. So for us in Europe in general, we have maybe after 18, you are capable of doing all those things you want. And maybe till 55, 60, where you have your brain capacity to still do something with your brain. And after, like, there are a lot of studies that your brain capacity is declining in all the manners, in all the ways. And if you just take this frame, it's like 40 years, maybe 45, maybe 50. Let's say 50. It's not that much if you want to do something great with your life. Of course, it shouldn't be great for everyone, but something meaningful costs a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of involvement and engagement into the life as a process. And a lot of things in my life, like, for example, related to work, I'm trying to think about them as a game or as a challenge, and not as a kind of daily routine. For me, for example, I don't know, interviews, technical interviews, it's more of a challenge, and I think of them as a challenges, like in the, I don't know, computer game, rather than as a, okay, I have to prepare and I have to think about it and I have to this and that. Of course I prepare, but it's in a more gamified manner, if I can say so. And yeah, about this time frame. So it's not that much time as people think. It's like, if you want a family one day, plus children, they take a lot of time, and then maybe build some kind of a, I don't know, business or podcasting or whatever, like even tiny things, they cost a lot of time. And yeah, that's helped me to get my head clear about who I am and what I'm doing, like, with my life. So,
well, yeah, one of the reasons I want to have you on is to talk about the future and or share your thoughts on it. Before we get to that, though, I've been curious about your perspective on what's going on in Ukraine. Since I know that it's touched you pretty intimately in a way.
Mhm.
So if you're open to share that, I'd be very curious to
Sure.
hear.
Sure, I'm always glad to share. And if at least, I don't know, 10 people, 20 people, 50 people listen to this and just Google one more extra time and think about how precious and fragile the world is, it would be awesome. So basically, I can speak of Ukraine and war in Ukraine in two ways. The first is like a more human centered way, where human is in a center, and the second perspective is more of a geopolitical perspective. So let's start with the second one. So basically, what happened, for all of the people who don't know, Russia invaded Ukraine on 24th of February, more than half a year ago. Really dark times, and probably, like, in terms of rethinking and reflecting on how the world works, and on in general on humanity. It was one of the darkest years ever in my life, and for the majority of people. Also in my surroundings, like my best friend, for example, he's from Ukraine, from Kharkiv, and Kharkiv is since 24th of February constantly, like daily, under the fire, under the artillery rockets flying to the kindergartens, to the schools, to the hospitals. And Kharkiv is like the second biggest city, probably, maybe the third biggest city, I don't want to lie. So, and it's like ruins, almost ruins. And a lot of horrible things happened. But yeah, I think, like, in a geopolitical way, it's a madman from Kremlin, from Moscow, that just have imperialistic thoughts on land and doesn't care about any kind of human-based, I don't know, human-based underground, so to say. It's just,
You're talking about Putin?
Putin. Yeah, Putin is a madman. Putin is a and yeah, for him it's like, that's what I've mentioned. Like, I have more human centralized game, for example, when I'm preparing for job interviews, but he is like has way more imperialistic perspective about, like, conquering other lands. And here, Georgia, like, I've discovered recently one of his biggest hobbies, and there are no reports on that, or it's just rumors from his surroundings, that his biggest hobby is just buying other politicians all over the world. The biggest target is, for example, Great Britain, and that's why a lot of Russian oligarchs are living in Great Britain and have no problems in paying with their money somewhere in London.
Because what? What'd you say? He has what with other leaders?
He's literally buying politicians.
Oh, okay.
It's his, like, biggest hobby. And there was also a rumor, and I can also think that it's true, that when he wanted to make this attack on and start this war on the Ukraine, it was I don't want to lie, it was probably November or December. It was clear that there will be a war, but it wasn't officially communicated. American agents and Pentagon and stuff like that predicted pretty well the start date of the invasion. Like, I was really impressed. Like, chapeau. And what I wanted to say, that he had information that people in Ukraine wait with bread and salt and wine, that Russia comes and conquers the Ukrainians, because this information was sold to the Putin, and Putin, like, just paid a lot of gas and oil money to buy politicians in the Ukraine, but it didn't work well. And there was this rumor that everyone was awaiting of Russian invasion, and in 3 days they will conquer all the Ukraine. Like, it's the second biggest country in the Europe with, I don't know, 50, 60 million population, something like that. But it wasn't the case. And all the way down, like from Putin or from Kremlin and his surrounding to a receiver of this money, they're just stealing, and sold him, I don't know, fairy tales. And yeah, for him, I think he's one of the richest, or maybe probably the richest man in the world. Yeah, and so that was geopolitical, but it's really horrible, dark days for all Europeans that are, I would say, that are if you have at least something human in your heart and indifferent, that's a dark days, because I've never thought I will experience, not directly, but indirectly or intimately, as you've mentioned, war in my life. Because for me, it was like always stories from my grandparents, the Second World War and how it went, and all this occupation and stuff. I thought, as books, that's history. Who will start a war like for nothing in the 21st century? There is a madman for that. Yeah, and so basically, I think if you ask about like the future and prediction of the war, I think that Ukraine will fight till the last soldier, because I've never seen that kind of national unity across literally across all the spheres of life, from bakers to gardeners to soldiers to IT specialists to podcasters. That kind of unification, I've never seen it. I've experienced something similar with our protests in Belarus back in 2020, but here is like a whole nother level, and that much support and that much indifferent people who really just give away their flats. For example, here in Hamburg, I've met a couple of them, just give away their flats, say, okay, I have another flat here that I'm renting, but whatever, you can take it. So, and just people, Ukrainian refugees live here for, I don't know, over 6, 7, 8 months, paying nothing. And people are really helpful. Of course, it's a kind of wealthy city, Hamburg, and a lot of wealthy neighborhoods, but still you have to be a human in the first line to do this. So, and I think that they will fight till the end. I'm not sure if they succeed, because Russia is huge and they have a lot of people who are really poor. And if you pay them like extra couple $100, they will go and fight for nothing in the front of Ukraine and just conquer territories, kill Ukrainians, stuff like that. And this propaganda machine is actually in some way amazing, of course, in a negative, but in a positive way, that to establish this propaganda over that big country in Russia,
it's effective.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I'm really sorry about Russians who got trapped into this propaganda machine for 20 years. I guess Putin is over 20 years as a president. And yeah, so, and I think that right now, for example, there are fights for Kherson. Kherson is like the southern Ukraine, a very big city, very important city for Russians, because it's like there is a bridge from Crimea that's already occupied since 2014, like this half island, to the all the important roads on the Kherson destination from Russia. So it's like really important city geopolitically. And right now there are Ukrainians started to counterattack on this direction, Kherson direction. And I think if Russia loses this city, because it's a single achievement in half a year, what they've managed to occupy. One city in southern Ukraine, no more. No Kharkiv, no Kiev, no eastern biggest Ukrainian cities. No, just this one city. And if they lose it, then they've lost everything that they wanted. I mean, they didn't get a lot since the war started. And if they lose this city, and I'm pretty sure they will lose, because as I've seen how they are prepared, it's like you can forget about it. So yeah, and then probably, yeah, the Ukrainians will get back all the eastern part of Ukraine, hopefully, but it's, as I've said, it's difficult. And
you also said too, Russia has a lot to throw at it still.
Yeah. For example, lately in the news, I've read that Russia started to let out all the prisoners who had this military experience, just to send them to the war, because they don't have enough capacity anymore. They are contracting prisoners, saying, okay, you have 40 years in the prison, why not you go out right now and go to fight for Russia, for bravery, for Mother Russia, big proud, big proud Soviet Union again. And of course they go. So yeah, military equipment is pretty bad. Also, they're buying kind of a lot of military equipment from North Korea. So for your understanding, from North Korea, it's like the most closed country in the world, probably. And it's an official information. You can also find a lot about it in the internet. Yeah, and the second perspective, because here it's like really unpredictable. Some people said the war will be over in May. Others said, okay, till the end of August it will be over and Russia will occupy the whole Ukraine. Then a lot of factors, a lot of unpredictable elements in this equation. So that's why war is difficult. Like battlefield is difficult, and I'm not a military person, so for me it's just my personal opinion, and I'm really like loyal to Ukraine because that should be stopped. That should be stopped, and this genocide, this barbarians. It's just it's so difficult, like, because you reflect a lot about your life. It's so difficult to keep in your head that people try to, to colonize a Mars on one side of a planet, or like in some specific regions, and in other specific regions, people just trying to like middle age conquer lands for nothing. That's kind of extremely difficult to keep it. It's like,
it seems like giving up a lot to get a little. It like doesn't make a lot of logical sense.
No logical sense at all.
Yeah.
And if you can process the information, it's like, that's really difficult to keep in mind that all those things happen on our tiny fragile planet. One thing I've understood, our planet is so fragile, our societies are so fragile, it can break within days. And within days, you can get so much hate, so much anger, so much rage, revenge, like all the things to the whole societies, because I'm still trying, I'm honest with you, I'm still trying to not think about all the Russians in a negative way, but it's so difficult because
you're also immediately there, whereas like I'm on the other side of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But nevertheless, even in Belarus, there are a lot of people, the majority of them, I would say 70%, that doesn't support the war and do all these partisan activities and trying to blow up trains with military equipment from Russia to Ukraine. So it's also a lot of stories to tell. But yeah, that's kind of very difficult to not to generalize about all the people within a society, and to stay adequate to the facts that you see and to the responsibility, because I'm the biggest fan of personal responsibility. So if you've done bad, it's your responsibility to either fix it or you will be punished. So that's how it works, but not about this generalization that, okay, if the whole Russia did it, of course not, but difficult topic.
It's also like the idea or the concept or action of forgiveness, of like ignorance in a way. Like a lot of people don't know what they do is wrong, whether it's in my case, like gunmen just like assaulting and robbing me for whatever reasons, or you're talking about Russians who you said have been influenced heavily by propaganda machines and media. It's also like wrapping your head around that, of like the ignorance of it, and like not the thinking for oneself when there's not that emphasis or that that value around them per se.
Yeah, that's
a difficult thing.
That's a very difficult thing, and in my eyes, the majority of Ukrainians and Europeans, it will take a long time to forgive Russia and Russians in general of what they've done. It will take years, 10, 20, I don't know, a lot of time.
Because now whenever you hear just the word Russian, you have negative connotations towards it.
That's what I've meant. That's what I'm trying to fight, because if I meet, I don't know, Russian in a store here in Hamburg, there are a lot of them here, but if I meet a Russian in a store, or I hear the Russian speech, I'm trying to avoid this negative connotation that, okay, stay calm. Russian is not directly a bad, negative person. It's not a war criminal or whatsoever. It's just Russian who got trapped by the regime and this propaganda machine and stuff like that. And there are a lot of bright people out there, but still the majority is not confused. Confused as well by the propaganda. A lot. Really a lot.
So you guys know about, like, we're chilling over here in the Western Hemisphere and we're seeing all what's going on. So we're keeping our eye on it, and there's just like there's so much going on in the world. Like a lot.
Daily a lot. And one thing I'm trying to battle as well right now is to avoid reading the news like daily all the time. Very difficult, because it really damages your brain and your ability to focus, to learn, to live your life, to focus, to dream a lot.
Well, here's the other side of that. I pay attention to no news. I'm often left out. I feel like totally isolated in conversations with other people because they're talking about stuff that, like, I just don't care about. Local news, I will say, I think is more important, because for me, like, I think knowing about your local area and what's going on is pretty important. I sort of neglected that. There were like reports all the time of stuff like this happening this summer, just carjackings and assaults. And you know what? If I was more aware of it, and paid attention more to local news, I probably wouldn't have had that situation. But then if I didn't have that situation, I wouldn't be here right now where I'm at. So it's like the news, the like commoditization, monetization,
Of
and
course.
like
Of course.
gamification of the news, I think is pretty
News are horrible. News are horrible, to be
pretty
honest.
ill. Yeah.
News are horrible.
Because it's not news. It's not, it's like it's hijacking human psychology to then sell attention to advertisers.
Totally. For me, you know, the only reason probably why I'm reading this, because I've seen since, I don't know, 2017, 18, I was a really bad person in terms of emphasizing and really feeling what other people feel. So trying to I can dream well, I can imagine well, but it was difficult for me on the like my emotional intelligence was close to zero. I was like really dumbest. You can even imagine. And since that time, I've started to empathize to people, to to not feel in all the ways, but to at least try to imagine what people are going through with all those like major factors. And yeah, that's why, for example, Ukraine bothers me though so much. Of course, in the first line, it's just because it's close to, like it's literally 200, 300 kilometers away from my hometown.
Yeah.
So it's like here.
It's going to hit you especially. Yeah.
Exactly. And there were also some rocket bombings on the Belarusian territory from the Ukrainian side, or maybe from Russian side. Nobody knows, no official information, no reports, nothing. Closed as hell. But yeah, there were like a couple of videos, and it was 50 kilometers away from my hometown where my parents live. So
yeah,
it's my responsibility at least to take care and to prevent or to inform them, okay, hey, look, here people or soldiers are moving that direction or that direction, and there are rumors that something bad may happen. Please evacuate and stuff like that. I've also prepared in February with my brother, with my cousin, and with my father an evacuation plan for my family in case it escalated also on the Belarusian territory, so that my grandmother would escape, my auntie, my family members. So that was a reality in February, March, April, May.
Yeah. It's like an actual reality.
That was my reality. And I'm not telling about, for example, Danilo, like my best friend from Ukraine, he has whole different reality. That's horrible. I would like to share one story with you. We were sitting in a dorm. I moved to a new flat with my girlfriend, and I was living in a dorm, and we were having a drink, and it was everything fine after the war started. And then Danilo's father, like friend of mine, called him because he's in a territorial defense of Kharkiv, and Kharkiv stays under bombs like since February. And he called Danilo, and Danilo said, "Hey, I'm here with my friends, and would you like to talk with them?" And then he was on the line, like on a speaker with us. We were on the table. It was like late night, maybe 2 or something in the night. And he was telling, "Yeah, it's pretty good. We keep fighting, and Russian soldiers didn't manage to come into the city, so we're experiencing only bombs, and like kindergarten was destroyed like across the street." And Daniel asked, like, "Where are you right now?" "Yeah, we are in the office of the territorial defense unit in the Kharkiv, so we are pretty safe." And then he's keeping telling like some stories from straight from the war zone. And then once you hear the rocket missile, he said, "Oh Jesus!" And it was on the line. Oh Jesus! Okay, the rocket came, arrived in the neighbor house. I have to go help people. It was like 2 a.m, and it was like literally over his head, and we've heard it like through the phone in a real time. He said, "Yeah, it's fine." Didn't hit. Of course, they've tried to hit the office, but they're bad in artillery. Like this office of Territorial Defense Unit in Kharkiv. They didn't hit, and he went out and tried to help like people with his friends. It's crazy, and that story was really not life-changing, but when you hear that kind of
It's
story,
real.
like yes, like small tiny pieces, you reflect on your life and you understand that you are way too overprivileged, even if at least that you're alive and you don't have bombs and rockets and stuff like that, and you can think freely, you can eat whatever you want, you can work, you can drink pure water, you have electricity, all those things you don't take for granted. You think about them as a huge improvement of a humanity over the time, and that's what is important to keep as the humanity, like all those tiny things, so that they work, so that I don't know, we stable, have all those goods in our lives, and just try to make this world a better place to live. And of course, then it helps you a lot mentally to not complain, because people complain a lot, at least in my surroundings, and I guess in modern Western societies a lot. You don't complain anymore. I don't remember when I've complained last time about something. Like, I have no complaints at all. And I see a lot of people here. Of course, there are problems and, day-to-day, like daily challenges in your work, in your podcast, in your relationship, in your life. But in general, you don't.
In general, these are pretty good. Things are the best that they've ever been.
Yes.
For any human being.
Yes.
In these areas that we live in.
That's for sure. And that reminds me of really how fragile life can be, and how important it is to do everything you can, the best you can, to just keep it working and stop this shitty wars across the globe.
Yeah, that perspective and gratitude for life can go a long way. And I think a lot of it is like what I think about, and what I'm curious to discuss with you is like, how do you then multiply or like communicate that reality where like we are here now in the 21st century. These are all the things we have, just like basic, how privileged we are compared to where our species has been in the past. How do we be appreciative of it? And then how do we use that gratitude and a positive mindset to create a future that's even better for the people after us? Like, that is the question I'm curious about,
Good question, Rich. And to be honest, I don't have a proper answer, but I have one thing in mind that comes, that in the first line, all the media, social media, news, people, the way people communicate over the internet, should think and write and text and speak more about some positive things that we've already achieved as a humanity. Right now, I'm talking about, for example, I don't have a studies, but definitely easy to find. Look at Africa. Africa was one of the poorest, if not the poorest continent in the world, like on our planet Earth.
Mhm.
And right now, in many regions, in many African regions, there is water supply, proper electricity, super fast internet. I guess Nigeria made like really
Dude,
well.
Nigeria is like my favorite like country.
I've read about Nigeria. Nigeria did pretty well in terms of this climbing up and improving the way of life, like
Mhm.
in the first line on a country level, but it consists of like these tiny pieces, like
Yeah.
small households here, people, single people, married people, whatever, and then there's like. So I think it's important to communicate those things. It's important for me, it's crucial to communicate that kind of thing, that it shouldn't be always about the problems and challenges and wars, and just to bring some kind of a positive mindset to the people that humanity is doing well. Of course, there are challenges, but probably since, I don't know, since 18th, 19th century, we are in the best place ever existed on this planet Earth, with all those goods such as electricity and water supply and heating. Can you imagine heating like all the apartments are supplied with a heating system, so it's warm in the winter? Can you imagine like it back in 18th, 19th century? And it shouldn't be taken for granted. And we should communicate about those things. That
Indoor plumbing? How about indoor plumbing? That's pretty fantastic.
That's crazy. And I think it's a huge role of a social media, and that's what I'm also trying to do. For example, with my podcast, I'm trying to bring some positivity, and of course, there are and there were problems and some challenges.
There are always
But
challenges.
yeah, there are always challenges.
There's never been a time in human history where there have not been challenges.
Exactly, but our challenges compared to challenges 2 centuries ago are not even the challenges. It's like some, kind of small tricky questions.
It's like we just got to figure this stuff out.
Yeah,
we just got to work together, put our minds together, use the technology, and just figure it out.
That's the whole point. And probably that's the one thing how we can spread this way of thinking across the globe. At least one point in a bigger question, because I don't have a proper answer on how we can do it, but it's definitely, it should be, if not the start, but somewhere in the middle, like the media should change. It's
not going to change itself.
Yeah. And you have to participate in it a lot. That's, for example, you as individual with your podcast, and me as well. I also know some people with a huge fan base on Instagram and all these social media platforms that start there, like in every household, step, and one day we'll achieve it. Just a matter of time.
Small steps every day.
Life. One thing I figured out: life is not a sprint. Life is a marathon. It's like you don't have to achieve, for example, that kind of thing in 2 years or in 5 years. But you have to think about it structurally, like you have decompose the problem. And one of the most fundamental probably skills for all the data scientists and machine learning engineers to decompose problems to the basic level, really to the fundamental understanding of a question or of a challenge. And in 90% of the time, you don't need a machine learning model for a specific problem, you just have to write a proper function, and it's like 2 + 2, and that's it. Simple as that. And that kind of thing I've taken away from my just freshly started data science career. And yeah, life is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. You have to really take smaller steps and breathe and be grateful for achieving like those steps. Otherwise, it will not work, or at least I have no idea how it works.
Yeah. And also with this marathon thinking, breaking down each mile that you're running, right? It's like you gotta, if you're doing 26.2 miles, you gotta run 1 mile first. You know, you gotta like keep building up to that.
Yeah, it's also about this,
completion.
you know, about this habitual thinking that it should be a habit in my eyes. Like, for example, in my perspective on social media and then news and stuff like that, it should be on a habitual basis. It should be like deeply inside of you, and not like some surface level discussions. Okay, it's good, but 2 weeks later everything is bad again. So that kind of
Wait, what do you mean? Elaborate on that.
I mean that this change, this transformation inside a human, it's difficult. If we're talking about societies, it's even more difficult and it takes more time. And it should be a habit. And you cannot build habit in 1 week or 2 weeks. Of course, there are like some edge cases, but
that's like probably the most important thing to communicate to people within societies, that it's not going to change overnight. Like you literally have to like habitually just get better.
Absolutely. That's the whole point. It's like daily work and daily self-reflection, daily reflection on your society, on your community, on your beloved ones. It's a lot of work.
What excites you most for the future?
Tricky question, since our last episode back in January. A lot of things changed, but I think the future will be bright. I think that if like the modern, like the younger generations right now are more able to communicate, and if we just let younger generations, I mean me included and you included, like if we reflect good on ourselves, we'll build the brighter future. Because Putin will die one day, and all those politicians starting wars will die one day. But if we will,
there's always another to take their place, though.
Yes, but if we will be able to transform ourselves into,
we'll see it happen. We'll see it happen. Prevent it better.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And if me, for example, if I will inspire, let's say 3 people, and these 3 people inspire like each 3 people, just to reflect and be more grateful for what you have, reflect more on what you're doing, take over responsibility, very important, to be responsible of what you're doing, to communicate things either than to punch and start a fight, on a daily basis as well. I think the future will be bright. That's definitely, at least in my eyes. It's difficult to implement, but it starts, as you've mentioned, in the head of every person on this planet. And it's definitely one of my responsibilities to make this happen, just because I want my children and grandchildren and children of my beloved ones will will live in a good place on this planet Earth. That's simple as that.
So self-reflection, responsibility, and communication are
Yes, the
kind
major
of three
major
things you
keys.
said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you say like self-reflection, you believe it's a good thing that more young individuals take the time out of their days, find time, make time in their days to reflect on their own lives.
Mhm. Yeah, it shouldn't be daily, but if you do, like, really super simple, once a week you take Sunday evening just to reflect how your week was, how you performed on Monday, what were your thoughts on Tuesday, what kind of emotions you've experienced on Wednesday, that kind of things, just over the week. Then you, of course, you can like go deep.
Like bare minimum, at
Yes,
least do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
bare minimum. And once it's established, I think you can improve your way of living. At least, like, you can boost it by 50%. Like my just some kind of initial guess that if you reflect on what you're doing and what you're experiencing, what you're thinking of, what you're living through, what kind of emotions, very important emotions, because I'm not like that emotional person, but I still experience emotions. We are human beings, and
You are a human being. Yeah.
yeah, it's very important to process that kind of emotions. And for me, it's like probably the most difficult part to process emotions, what I'm experiencing, what I feel. Is it like anger, or is it rage, or is it happiness, or is it gratitude, or is it like the whole spectrum? And yeah, I think that the key points. And if the younger people will be responsible for what they're doing, plus communicate in a human way with other people, and self-reflect on what they're communicating and all this stuff I've mentioned, I think it's possible to build a better society and better humanity in the future.
Something I appreciate, which you didn't say, is money. A lot of people think the answer is money. I disagree with that.
Nah, money comes and goes. In, I don't know, 5-10 years, in half of the countries will pay with some crypto wallets embedded into your hand. No, money is not that. Is definitely not an answer for that kind of questions. That's for sure. That's 100%. I'm really super convinced that money is not an answer at all.
When you say responsibility, what do you mean by that? Elaborate on that.
Just simply be responsible for what you're doing. You've done good thing, you can grab all the congratulations and all the all the positive effects of doing good things straight to you. If you've done bad things, if you, I don't know, murdered or robbed or assaulted, you have to go to prison. It was your choice, and it's very important to have that kind of mind.
Responsible for actions and behaviors oneself.
Yes. Responsible for behavior, for actions, for basically that's it. Because what I've experienced, and also responsible of who you are as well, in general terms, because I think right now the younger people cannot fully be responsible of their lives, and it's always some kind of a distractions all the way through, and like on a daily basis. Social media plays a big role, but you know that, of course. So I see that everything is bad, and this also internal suffering, as you've mentioned, but it's not me. It's all the bad things around me, but not me. And I think it's important to be responsible of what you're feeling, just to keep you, just at least to keep you healthy, of course, if you want to. It's like the bare minimum as well. But yeah, that's very important things.
And then communication.
Communication, yes, well.
What do you mean by communication?
Simply sit. If you have a problem with someone, because people have people are difficult, complicated creatures. If you have a problem, for example, if I would have had a problem with you in any way, I wouldn't buy tickets and come to Chicago and punch you in the face or have a fight with you. I will sit on a table and discuss my problems, my thoughts, my all the way through, like everything I have to say to you, I will discuss on the table, communicate with you, and find a solution or whatsoever, but not taking stupid actions before communicating or before like self-reflecting or reflecting. So basically think twice, or if you need more, like think more, and then try to take an action. My granddad said like literally two very good things in his life. The first one is you have to find the golden the golden measure in your life, so you keep everything in balance. It's one of the hardest things in life, his words citated. And the second one is you have to measure 7 times and then cut it once. It's a well-known phrase in our societies, but still it's like somehow it's stuck to me. And just think before you say something, think before you do something stupid, think before you. It's difficult, it's very difficult.
Yeah,
it's extremely difficult to think before you do something and think why do this. And I cannot do this like maybe to 5%, 10%, but I'm trying to do my best.
Yeah.
It's
effort. Put effort into one's life would be a good good thing.
Totally.
What do you think about data's role in what makes you excited for the future?
The digital transformation is all the way it's like really booming right now, and I think with the data people will also with the I'm speaking about AI systems and all that kind of predictive system, that people will make better decisions in the future. That's for sure. That's 100%. It's already happening, but it will be even better. I don't know about there is this term general AI, where it's like a proper human being with a like AI capable of everything that is human capable of. And I'm not thinking it will happen in the closest future, but we're on the way there, that's for sure. And a lot of people, a lot of really bright minds working very hard for this. But yeah, I think I hope at least the biggest benefit will be making more rational decisions. And the second one is also automation of those boring daily processes. in your life, that data and AI will help a lot for sure.
Mhm.
And yeah, hopefully there will be no more, I don't know, workers in a factory staying for like 10, 12, 15 hours working extremely hard and like dying with 45, 60, I don't know. But yeah, I hope it will go away one day. Of course, there will be a huge discussion later on about some regulations, how to fix it. For example, with the taxes, like it's a common question: how should robots pay taxes or not? Because like humans pay taxes if they are in a factory. Should
Mm.
robots pay taxes in a factory? And it was a
Interesting.
huge it was a huge discussion here in Europe back in the days. I didn't follow it till the end, but yeah. And there are a lot of that kind of things that
Mhm.
come with AI and data and big data transformation and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the future will be bright as well, also with the data, and that's how it will be. And it's up to us, engineers, scientists, researchers, consumers as well, to make it better for the human being purposes.
What do you see the biggest challenges of the 21st century as?
Probably we've already discussed.
We've already discussed the main one probably, but like
yeah, but it's
I would say like external issues.
Yeah.
Not human beings, but like external issues.
To my, we've discussed it, but it wasn't recorded. It was about underpopulation.
See, people think I'm like crazy when I like say this, but it's underpopulation.
There are
elaborate more on why.
Yeah, you can show this this fragment to your friend and people around you.
The biggest threat to humanity is underpopulation.
Yeah, the biggest, like the best example, and a couple of days ago, I've read a small research and post on it. For example, Japan, they have extreme decrease in population since 1975 or something, and it all has to do with migration and fertility rate, and there are a lot of factors.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be clear, all the societies after the technological improvement, after the drastic increase in quality of human life, all the societies experience that kind of decrease in population, and it's a kind of well-known fact. And the fertility rate plays a huge role, because if you live well, why you have to have more children and stuff like that. And Japan, as I've mentioned, has one of the biggest challenges right now is underpopulation, because it's decreasing like 0.2 or 0.3% per year. The population, can you imagine? It's like 0.2% per year, like the initial population of Japan. It's huge. It sounds like 0.2%. What the hell is that? But in 5 years, it's like 1%. In 10 years, it's 2%.
Yeah.
It just happens. And also in the European countries as well, in this research, it was stated that by 2050, the annual decrease in the European Union will be 0.5 or 0.4, I'm not sure, 0.4% per year, even more than in Japan till and till the end of 21st century, probably, we'll not have enough people. And
But let's
There,
look why explain why this is bad. If we're looking, because a lot of people think that the world or planet Earth is overpopulated and there isn't enough resources.
it's
Elaborate and explain why
I have
underpopulation is
I
bad.
have very good question. I have two things to notice. The first one is a bad distribution of people. Cities are growing and rural areas are just dying out, but the land is here. I'm pretty sure in the US it's kind of same story. The rural areas are dying out slowly, but dying out, and all the people, younger generations, move to New York, San Francisco, Florida, whatsoever. And that the first thing to mention, the distribution is bad and it should be fixed, like across probably all the societies. Maybe only Switzerland works pretty well, but Switzerland is small and they're pretty evenly distributed, like more or less. But it's a whole nother story. And the second one is a workforce productivity, I would say, because I want to eat something and you want to eat something, and we all want to eat and drink something, and we all want to go to the, I don't know, theaters and cinemas, and we all want many things. And to manage those many things, you have to have people. AI will not replace everything. That's for sure, not at least in our lives. I'm pretty convinced that it will not happen, but it will help a lot, but it will not happen. And probably AI will even create more spheres to work in, such as, for example, this all this cryptosphere, for example. As AI is also stimulating, and technology is just giving new opportunities to work and to yes, there are so many new positions and job roles that we've never seen or heard about before. Data engineers, 20 years ago, there were no data engineers. Data scientists, 25 or 30 years ago, there were no data scientists. And right now, look, biochemical engineers, some kind of electrical engineers for smart grids. That's,
Yeah.
You understand what I mean, right? So, and to have this workforce, you have to have people for this. And I think if it should, like, those both things should be fixed in the first line. So the distribution across geographically within the countries, just make your rural areas better places to live, just stimulate it. And it's in the first line.
Here's an example of this. So I go to Wisconsin all the time. I'm from rural Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I live in Chicago. So I grew up on a farm, and I go back. I need personally both the city and the country for me to like thrive as a human being. And my mom, this last time my lease came up for the apartment, and she's like, you could come back here. I said, is your internet fast? Is your internet going to get any faster? No, then I'm not going to live here. And that's, like, to me, one of the biggest things about rural areas is like equal opportunity of high-speed internet access.
Perfect example. Really, that's well summarization of why it's important. At least fix the internet in the rural areas.
Yeah.
And more people will come. Fix some hobbies and activities in the rural areas. More people will come. Just like to fix this distribution problem is one thing, because I also sometimes get this feeling that in bigger cities, also in Hamburg is a very big city, there is this overpopulation problem, but it's not. I mean, of course, here, yes, because like people coming, no place, everything is super expensive. But if you think about like country level, probably if you've mentioned, if you've noticed, all the people who speak about overpopulation are from the bigger cities.
Wait, say that again.
All the people who speak
Talk about overpopulation.
yeah, they're from the bigger cities.
Yeah.
And over the bigger cities are growing and overpopulated. And that's a very important thing, to go beyond your comfort zone and to have this kind of abstract thinking and apply this abstract thinking on, at least on your country where you're living.
Yeah.
And just have a look on just take your car or buy a ticket for the train and go to the rural areas and ask people if it's like overpopulated, right? Like, for example, in Wisconsin,
yeah.
No, that's the whole point. And of course, like, I feel that Hamburg is overpopulated. That's for sure. But I know I've been to many rural areas in Hamburg and not in Hamburg, in Germany and in Belarus and in Poland and in Netherlands. 2 houses, like the best example, where our countryside house in Belarus is, there is also like there are 2 countryside areas, like with a lot of houses, 1 and 2, and the first one is full, like really well structured with the roads, and there's like a public beach, and like everything is super. And 20 kilometers away from this area, like from this cooperative, is like another one, and another one, there are like 60 houses and 50 are closed or destroyed or damaged or inhabitable. And that's what I'm talking about. Give people, and it's also our responsibility to support the local communities to make rural areas better place to live. And you'll fix this distribution, and then you will see we're underpopulated. Then you'll see that we are super underpopulated if you spread all those people back to their homes.
I think one of the biggest issues of the 21st century is going to be human movement. Human movement.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And that's a big threat, I would say. And maybe last thing I would drop to the underpopulation is, you don't have to be a scientist or researcher. Like, if the population is decreasing, right? And all the things you want in your life are increasing, like some extra food, some extra drinks, some extra activities and stuff like that. So you have to either keep the population up, or you have to keep the productivity of this decreasing population up, because otherwise it will not work. So and my guess would be, if the fertility rate in modern societies will decrease as it's decreasing, we have 2 choices, and either increase the fertility rate or increase that productivity to supply all those people left on the planet Earth with all the goods and food and stuff like that. So yeah, basically pretty simple equation. Of course, there are like a lot of factors, but if we're talking like on a huger scale, I think it is. Yeah,
it's interesting. It's always go ahead.
No, I just want to say, you're not the only one who experienced that. Are you crazy? What kind of underpopulation? Are you sick? Like, you want some meds or stuff like that? I'm saying no, guys. That's like,
it's a basic math problem.
And I think you've asked me last time about my article about statistical bias. It's also a confirmation bias. If you live in your overpopulated, overcrowded space in like New York City or in Hamburg and Berlin, of course it's overpopulated. How you expect to be it's not overpopulated when all the people are coming to the bigger cities, and like this human movement, as you've mentioned. And of course, like you will face it on a daily basis. And of course, if media tells you that, whoa, overpopulation is a problem, no, bad distribution is a problem, and then of course you will be chewing it as the real information, as a real fact that we are overpopulated, but we are not.
See, I actually think, my thought isn't that. My experience with people denying that underpopulation is an issue and thinking that we actually have overpopulation, it comes from discussions or conversations with Americans where there seems to be this like ethnocentric view of the world where it's outdated. They're basing their ideas off of things they're thinking about of the 20th century, where there's a developed world and a developing world, and not understanding, because they don't talk to people outside the United States or other people that don't have the same perspective as them. You realize that the world, like, the world's caught up, and like the resources, it's not the like, they're using outdated information to like think about the world in a way.
The source of data is outdated. That's absolutely true. And to be honest, I don't particularly like this kind of view that there is developed world and
I don't like
developing world. What the hell should it mean? I mean,
that's such a 20th century view to look at the world.
That's the point. And people also hear like, oh, it's like a developed country, and that's it's developing country. Of course it's developing because it's difficult. It has the whole different background and history and stuff like that, and political issues and geopolitical and geographical and social issues, of course. But I don't like when people speak about countries in that manner. So I'm more of a, I don't know.
See, it speaks to like, well, I'm in America, and like the blindness of overprivilege, where people can't see that like the rest of the world and what's happening.
I'm pretty sure that in my position where I am, and in the first line, I'm very grateful where I am. And of course, it's like a lot of hard work to overcome and to come to study and stuff like that. But a lot of people take it for granted in the first line, and they don't understand it's like a huge privilege to have all that kind of goods and all that kind of freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of A, B, C, D, E. And you should work for it. I mean, not for, with it, just to keep it growing and to spread it and to help another people, another communities, and other societies. That's the story. That's
well, it's always great talking with you. Great
same.
Conversations.
Same. Absolutely.
I'm glad we caught up more too. It's been a while. So thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, you're welcome. I would like to be in the next episodes. That's for sure.